We're busy with 2024 November question 3. Now 311 says you must convert A. Take A and convert it into degrees. To convert into degrees, it's times 180 over pi. And so we get an answer of 51 degrees. The next question, 312, says the square root of cosec B. And the question is saying use a calculator to determine this. So before you can use a calculator, this means you will have to manipulate that using the reciprocals. And so that will be the square root of 1 over sine B. The next thing would be to substitute the 34. And that will give you 1,34. Do note, if you use that as a fraction under the square root sign, it's going to give you maths error. You need to punch in 1 over sine 34 first, get that answer, and then square root that answer. Okay, and for that it is 2 marks. 313 says tan open brackets A plus B. So all you have to do is substitute your A and your B value there. So substituting A is 51 as determined in 311, and we are given that B is 34. Add those two numbers up, 51 plus 34 first. And the answer there is 11,43. So all you have to do here in question 3 is to be very good with a calculator and be able to substitute. And so for this whole question, you have 5 marks. With the next question, it's trig on the Cartesian plane. So do notice you have a radial arm over there, right? This is trig on the Cartesian plane. You have the radial arm. You are going to have to find that distance there. Okay, it's very simple. So notice you have x and y, and the only one you don't have is y. So that's the n value, right? So you have minus 5 and n. So that means you'll have to find n, which is the y value, to solve all those questions that follow. And then all you have to do is answer these questions, right, by using the diagram. So quite easy. And probably you might have to calculate the angle of inclination just by looking at the diagram. Right, so this is trig on the Cartesian plane. Very simple. The first step is to complete the triangle. So we have to find n, as you can see. So using Pythagoras theorem, let's find n. So Pythagoras theorem, it's going to be the hypotenuse squared, which is the 13. Okay, so this will be the hypotenuse, right, squared, which is 13. And then I'm going to subtract that other side to find that side there. So 13 squared minus 5 squared is equal to 12. So we have n is equal to 12. Now secant theta is the opposite of cos. Now cos is x value over the r value. This means secant theta is going to be r over x. It's the opposite, it's the flip of x over r, so it will be r over x. And in the diagram we can see it's 13 over negative 5. Now sine theta is y over r, so looking at y over r, if that's our angle, then we have 12 over 13. So that is 1 plus 12 over 13 all squared, your calculator, 313 over 169. Right, so this last question, determine the values of x if 2 sine x is equal to 3 cos x for the period of 180 to 260. So this is at the bottom of the Cartesian plane. So notice this one will be a trig identity, because how are you going to solve that? This means we'll have to divide both sides by something to try and bring it to a trig identity. Think about it. So if I attempt to get rid of cos x on both sides, this means I can turn this equation around. Okay, I'll be working now. I've got x on both sides. So remember in lower grades you had like 2x is equal to 3x plus 3. So what you have to do, you have to move the x's to one side, right? You recall that? But if we move it here, then we lose our number because that 3 is attached, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to divide both sides by cos x to get rid of cos x. So multiplying both sides by cos x, we will get rid of cos x. So that means we're going to have this is equal to 3. And then having the trig identities, what is sine x over cos x? It's tan, isn't it? Now we have 2 times tan x, divide both sides by 2, And then we're going to move tan to the minus 1 over. Punch in our calculator. What do we get? We get 56,31. But this is a quadrant 1 answer. Do note on top what they said. So they said it is quadrant 3 and 4. How do we know? 180, 360. This will be quadrant 3 and 4. Remember that quadrant 1 is top right. So quadrant 3 answer, I have to use the reduction formula. So I have to say 180 plus x. Okay, for a quadrant 3 answer. And adding those two, I get. And using ASTC, what function did we have? We had tan. And so our answer is in quadrant 3. Okay, there's no quadrant 1 answer, so to say, because they said it's 180 and 360. But we had to work out the quadrant 1 angle first. And then all we had to do was add it to 180, because why? Tan is in that quadrant. And notice tan was positive, right? So tan was a positive 3 over 2. And so this is why we worked out the quadrant 3 answer. Okay, we're on to question 3 again, but of 2023's paper. Right, here, this is the question, and all we have to do is substitute. Very similar to the previous paper. We then use our calculator and subtract those two values. And then we get sine 127,6 on our calculator. That gives us 0,79. So again, it's calculator work. Going to the next question, right? All we have to do, where we see secant, we place cos over there, 1 over cos. So substituting in for x is 152,4. Work out that whole bracket and write it as a solid number. Right? And then, don't forget, all what you see, secant 156,2 will be 1 over cos 156,2. Right? So on your calculator, 1 divided by cos 156,2 equals times a half. And that gives us negative 0,55. Now this is what we call the reciprocal functions. Maybe you don't understand how that becomes 1 over cos. Right? Let's look at it. So we have our three basic trig functions, sine, cos, and tan. And what is the opposite of those? The opposites of those are cosec, sec, and cot. And that's the connection between them. So for me to get cosec theta, which is not on the calculator, it is 1 over sine theta. For me to get secant theta, it will be 1 over cos theta. For me to get cot theta, it will be 1 over tan theta. Now sine theta is y over r, cos theta is x over r, and tan theta is y over x. Now for me to make that cosec, sec, and cot respectively, I put all of that to the minus 1. And when I put it to the minus 1, this means I'm putting 1 over sine theta. So in effect, 1 over sine theta is cosec theta. Do you understand? Now the next question, 3.2, says sine b is equal to a negative 4 over 5, and b is an element of 90 degrees and 270. They want us, without using a calculator, they want cosec b. Now sine and cosec are buddies, so that is quadrant 2. Notice they gave us 90, 270, so they said it's either quadrant 2 or 3, but looking at cosec, cosec is sine, which is quadrant 2, it's a reciprocal. So we know that sine b is negative 4 over 5, which they told us, right? And it's y over r, right? But notice here, this one is positive, right? In quadrant 2, it's positive. If it was a positive sign, notice this one won't be in quadrant 2, it'll be in quadrant 3. I forgot to add a negative in front, right? So it'll be quadrant 3 because of the negative in front of 4 over 5. Notice this is y over r. Now that means our y is minus 4. Our r is always positive, right? So what is the reciprocal of sine b? Is it not cosec b? So this means it's to the minus 1. So put that on your calculator. You will be amazed what happens with the numbers. What happened? It flipped, correct. and that's our answer. Right, the next question says tan B plus cos B, 5 marks. So we're going to have to draw this in our quadrant 3 diagram. So we know that y is -4 and the radial arm is 5. So we have to calculate x first. So x is equal to the square root. Now because we're finding x or y, then it's the radius first, subtract, minus the y, which is 4, and square it. And so we're going to get an answer of a plus or minus 3. Now go to your Cartesian plane and check which side are you on. Are you on the x's negative side, yes or no? Yes, this means x will be -3. You must draw the diagram, okay? The diagram is a must. Now tan, looking at the diagram, is y over x, and cos B is x over r. All you have to do is substitute those values, which are x, y, and r. So y is -4 and x is -3. And then x is -3 and r is 5. Plugged it into your calculator, you'll get the final answer, 11 over 15. So in the next question, we have cos x is equal to negative sine 56,7 degrees, and they give us the interval there, 0 and 360. So the first thing to do is to punch that into your calculator, negative sine 56,7, and get a decimal answer. The next thing is to move cos to the other side and solve for x. Now this will be a quadrant 1 answer. Now notice that cos x is a negative. Now where is cos negative? Right, so we know in quadrant 1, the A quadrant, all are positive. We know in the C quadrant, cos is positive. This means it can only be the S and the T quadrants, quadrant 2 and 3. So this means we're going to need a quadrant 2 and 3 answer. Now for quadrant 2 answers, it is 180 minus theta. Quadrant 2, remember the reduction formula, 180 minus theta. Quadrant 3 answers is 180 plus theta. So all you have to do is put the number there and it's sorted. Right, and those are our final answers, as simple as that. Right, depending how you rounded it off, your answer might come a little different. Notice here I rounded off to 3 decimals in my question. Maybe you only rounded off to 2. It's going to come slightly different. It doesn't matter, as long as you follow the same order of thinking. That's what we're marking here. Alright, and that is question 3.3 done and dusted. Right, and that's all of question 3. Work with this in the meantime. Hopefully I can make a question 4 video, and that will be it. And this question is 14 marks in total. So in effect, you would have on average at this point. So generally question 1 is 14, question 2 is 10, and question 3 14 plus minus. Add those 3 numbers, you got 38 marks, just question 1, 2, and 3. So learn it very carefully. And 38 over 150 is 25%. You are almost there. All you have to do is conquer question 4 and question 5, and this puts you in a position to pass the paper. All the best.